Hello and welcome to Startup Stories with Scaleway, where we explore cutting-edge startups around the world and how they leverage cloud computing technologies. I'm your host, Ethan Pierce, and today's guest is Henk-Jan Meyer, who's co-founder at Cargoplot, a shipping and logistics matching platform connecting e-commerce importers with freight forwarder services. Welcome, Henk-Jan.
Hi, great to be here, Ethan. Thanks.
It's great to have you, and to give our audience some context on what you're doing, I always like to start off with a brief elevator pitch to better understand what you do. So maybe just tell us real quickly about freight forwarding and what you are solving at Cargoplot.
Yeah, so the briefest pitch is usually an analogy. I tend to describe Cargoplot as the booking.com of international logistics. And that means that it is a platform, as you announced in your introduction. And if you have an international logistics question, if you want to ship something across the world, then if you come to us, we can help you find the correct partner to effectively arrange that transportation for you. Such a partner, such a company that arranges for you is called a freight forwarder. So basically, we match you with the right freight forwarder. Many of them exist. We are a platform that helps you distinguish one from the other and provide you with the best match. And additionally, we help you. We provide service and support. If your shipment is underway, we help you with communications. We guide you through the process of delivering the right documents for customs and this kind of additional services we provide as well.
If people haven't ever had to ship anything using these services, they might not realize how opaque a lot of it is, and the fact that there's just lots of paper, whether it's with the shipping service, the carrier, whether it's all the customs like you mentioned, the border stuff. So it's actually a fairly complex and not terribly transparent process that is in dire need of digitalization, which is what you are doing. And so I'm curious. It's always interesting to see how people get to the to a problem that they want to solve. So, the backstory of this, how this came to be for you and your co-founders to want to solve this particular problem.
Yeah, so this story starts with my one of my two co-founders. His name is Martin. I will just address him as Martin. He was the one that was, I think, almost 2 years ago now, planning a motorcycle trip through South America, and he needed to ship his motorcycle, his bike to South America, and he just wanted to find a way to transport it there, and so that he would be able to use it. And he very quickly found that it is really difficult to get a grasp on what is offered there. So you need a freight forwarder. And at some point, you could learn that quite quickly, but there are so many suppliers, and typically their website and their online information is very limited. So it's hard to get good information. So he started emailing and calling around, and eventually got some prices out of that. But while he was doing this trip, the need that you actually mentioned just now, the need for some sort of digital platform that helps you arrange these kind of things, grew in his mind. And actually, when he got back in the Netherlands, we're Amsterdam based, he basically had a business plan for this. And how the story continues is that he was part of an incubator program where he met Daniel. Daniel is my other co-founder, and he's actually an old friend of mine as well. Daniel is so Martin's background is more business oriented, and Daniel is a technical guy, just like me. So when they got together and were talking about this idea, Daniel suggested to involve me because they wanted an additional technical partner in that. And about a year ago, the three of us started this adventure. And basically, the premise is still the same. Our customers are usually entrepreneurs, e-commerce entrepreneurs, so not really the kind of people shipping motorcycles for holidays. But the problem that we solve is still that problem. It's nowadays it's very easy to order a bunch of goods in bulk on Alibaba somewhere in China, and but compared to that process, the shipping process is a real hassle that you don't know a lot of if you get started in this industry. So yeah, basically that's how we got started, and yeah, it works. It seems that a lot of people know where to find us. We have not done any real marketing to speak of up until this point, but we were able to grow quite rapidly, especially during the second half of 2020. Early this year, we got an investment round, and at this moment, we are preparing actually for the expected growth in the next half year. So that's where we're at.
Well, I'd love to maybe understand a little bit more too, because I would expect that there was an awful lot of e-commerce kind of just massive growth in 2020 due to people, being confined at home and buying lots of things, or just the fact that there was just a lot of things moving around that activity boomed, while a lot of in-store purchases and things like that because of closures just didn't happen. And so there were a lot of new e-commerce companies, or there were a lot of existing e-commerce companies that saw massive growth. In France, we've seen two different unicorns this year that come from the e-commerce space, just because 2020 really propulsed something that would have taken them a couple more years to get to that level, and they did it in 6 months. So I'm curious as to how that really boosted the activity and what you guys are working on.
Yeah, so that's it has really helped us in that sense. But maybe we'll get to speak about some of the challenges that we encountered as well related to this. But so basically, we did this concept of matching customers, clients with freight forwarders is something that could work anywhere with any kind of transport in theory. So we decided to focus on e-commerce entrepreneurs because it allows us to keep our focus on this group to ensure that we do not diversify too much in that sense. So and the advantage was that we picked e-commerce entrepreneurs, and as you said, in 2020 they saw enormous growth. Their shipment needs are quite similar typically, so we can optimize for transport from Asia, typically imports from Asia, China a lot. So, and that helped us to grow and to keep delivering the kind of quality that we want to deliver, the quality of service.
I would think
So
in terms of systems integration, the fact that you're connecting all the systems on the freight forwarder side with your systems, and then with your clients side, I would think also that e-commerce platforms potentially are more digital than a lot of the maybe offline importers that are bringing in products and then distributing them through stores or other manner of things. So maybe that helped also, that e-commerce entrepreneurs are probably 100% digital in what they're providing.
actually, not so much. I can see your line of reasoning here, but we do not integrate with the platform of the e-commerce entrepreneurs as of yet. So we have our own platform that we built that somebody can use to request a shipment, to see the status of their current shipments and so on. But that could work, and that does work equally well for someone who has had a typical e-commerce business where they have a large player like Amazon, or maybe they have a website where they sell their stuff and they have a fulfillment pipeline and so on. But it could work equally well for someone who has a physical store, basically. And some of our clients actually do, and they do their own warehousing and distributing once the goods get into the country.
So maybe we talk a little bit more about the technology that you're using in order to create this platform and this service, and how you're, the algorithm or the things that you're automating to make this more efficient and transparent.
Yeah, so basically, in this logistics industry, margins are typically quite low. That means for something like this to work, you need to have skill. You need to be able to grow to quantities that make this worthwhile actually for us. So that means that from the beginning we have been very eager to consider this skill that we want to achieve into the architecture, because this is always a difficult decision, because on one side, as a startup, you want to move as fast as you can. So the quick and dirty approach is sometimes the right approach because it helps you gain ground quite quickly. But on the other hand, you know that down the line you will encounter problems when it comes to scale. So what we did, we basically went for a service-based implementation. You could call it microservice, but what is micro in that sense? But so service-based backend that runs on Kubernetes. Kubernetes is, we had some knowledge on and some experience with that platform, and that is really helping us to, make this a scalable architecture. Basically we build our services in Golang, backend services. In front end, there's TypeScript mostly. And these services we deploy on Kubernetes, and this is a super nice abstraction layer for us because we can add machines to this Kubernetes cluster as much as we like. But our ways of deployment and maintenance, they do not really change. And this is one of the early decisions that we made, that we went for this platform. And this makes it easy to scale up in that sense.
Well, this is Startup Stories with Scaleway, so we can maybe dive into that idea of your cloud computing stack, your infrastructure there, because just to talk about the needs that you have, why this partnership was interesting, working with the startup program, and really just this idea of a small beginning activity leveraging cloud computing to really lay out the infrastructure that it needs to become something much more important, much larger, and allow that process to be maybe a little bit more smooth as you need to deploy more and more resources.
Yeah. So what you can see is that Kubernetes is more and more becoming the de facto standard for these kind of implementations, and I think that was a right bet that we made, and it's really nice to see that Scaleway has a Kubernetes offering for us. That means that we can use the Kubernetes offering from Scaleway, and I'm really I find it really comforting that this is not a cloud buy-in that is tied to very specific services. You see at the bigger cloud infrastructure providers that they try to lure you with their specific services that they offer to tie them into the platform. And with Kubernetes, we don't have this, and we can use a platform like Scaleway very effectively. And additionally, what Scaleway offers that the others haven't is of course that it's European based, and this is not a primary concern for us, but it's really comforting to know that we don't have to be afraid of violating some obscure terms and conditions and have our accounts terminated and so on. There is a certain trust that goes from there. So that are the reasons that we are enthusiastic about this partnership, and I must admit that we need to fully explore the offering that Scaleway has, because Kubernetes is one major thing that we need. But for example, there's a beta product that I noticed which has sort of a Kubernetes, but with different sorts of backends from other providers thingy. I was very interested to see that, but I have not had a chance to play with it. But so that this is a nice partnership for us. I think Scaleway innovates in the direction that really matches what we need and what we want to use.
So, if we jump back into the business side of things, how would you distinguish yourself from your competition? So, we have the historical world of freight forwarding and providers that, I'm not sure if you still have to fax things, but there's lots of paper that's involved and can be a very complicated process. There's also some other digital players. How would you kind of compare yourself to there, and why would, if people were listening to this and they were in the e-commerce space and thinking, yes, I need something like this, why should companies choose you over the other options, either historically or the newer, more digital platforms?
Yeah, basically there are two reasons. I think the reason for historical physical things you've already described, being digital allows us to compare a lot of freight forwarders and without too much effort. So if somebody comes to us, we can find the right freight forwarder and send the specifications and so on a lot easier than would this have been an old-fashioned non-digital process. So digital is the way to go for this. But then again, comparing us to other digital providers of similar services, I think what you see is that most of our customers do change their requirements quite often, or the kind of shipment they need. And so typically they have recurring shipment needs, but you see that it's slightly different every time. Additionally, the market changes a lot, and what we can do, because we are not a single freight forwarder, we are a platform that actually discloses all these other freight forwarders that exist in the world. So what we have seen, for example, in the past year, is that at some point sea freight rates were going up and up and up, and then things became very expensive. If you have a traditional partnership with a large sea freight supplier, freight forwarder, then you cannot really. The switching cost is really high to go to someone else. But with us, we were able to move some of our clients to train freight, rail freight options from another provider, and it becomes really easy because we discuss with them, hey, the rates are going up. At some point, it is interesting to consider a railway freight with this player, and this way you can shift modalities. So this is called the modality, the rail, sea or air transport, and you can really shift depending on what a client needs and what the market looks like. And I think this is really a competitive advantage that we have over other players, bigger players, because typically they buy their own transport services, while we are not connected to a specific one specific freight forwarder. Okay. Additionally, I would say that we are have an advantage in the sense that we can offer lower rates typically, because we can switch easily between freight forwarders. We can switch to another one if this one got too expensive or is not able to deliver the quality that we need. So lower rates as well as better quality is something that you can get from us more easily than using a different provider and different platforms. There are not so many platforms that are directly comparable to what we do. So I think, does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I think it's important to. I mean, I think it's obvious to see that compared to the old way, that the digital platform makes sense. But in detail, what does that actually bring to people? So your answer is really helpful there. And then, as different organizations or platforms try to solve this differently, what is it that you're bringing to that? And I think this ability to switch between platforms and providers is definitely important. If you've ever had to deal with that process, it's rather cumbersome. But also, once you manage to get it done, you don't want to switch because it took you so much to get it done in the first place.
So one other way to put this is if you. So our clients are typically relatively small entrepreneurs, right? Because it makes sense. If you are a huge company, you are really. The size Heineken, for example, or something, then you have a department that does this for you. That has some connections to some freight forwarders that they typically use. They will know which one to ask for which kind of shipment you have. But at this such a department you don't have at your disposal when you're a small player. But we can be that department for you. So that is how we can be helpful, how we add value for our clients. Yeah.
I think definitely for companies like you mentioned that are using Alibaba or other platforms to source products that are being made somewhere else that don't necessarily include the freight, or potentially include freight as an option, but you want to be able to potentially compete with that if you have better options that you can kind of look at. And so I think that that's a for people that are building up an e-commerce business of really connecting their country to goods coming from some other country, and maybe the freight isn't included or is not the best option that's being provided. I think that's really an interesting piece there to be, as we see platforms just providing choice, providing transparency, allowing people to understand what they're doing, what it's costing them, and what their options are, is super useful. And so it's great that that's a problem that you're solving well. I guess I'm just curious then, what are your next big steps, the next couple months, the next year? You just raised some money. You mentioned the scale that's coming, all the things that you're doing. What's in the pipeline for Cargoplot?
Yeah. So what we have seen last year, second half of last year, we were pretty small, but we were doubling basically every month in the number of customers that we have. So we grew quite rapidly. This kind of doubling, so the logistics market is a bit cyclical. You see that when second half of the year, so then holiday season is coming up eventually. So people are going to buy, shops are going to buy their stuff, source their stuff from Asia and so on. So you typically see that there's a peak growing up until the holidays and beyond a little bit until Chinese New Year, and then interest goes down again. So what we are currently doing, we just raised an investment round last spring, March it was. What we did based on that, we are currently building our team. We have been hiring devs. We are hiring service personnel. We have an office space now in Amsterdam. And these are all things that help us get ready for, September, basically, when we expect the market to be growing again, to find many people looking for shipment options and so on. Additionally, the platform itself, there's stuff that we can, there are steps in our process that we can automate, that we can make more efficiently. And this is what we are currently working on, getting the quotes from freight forwarders, for example. This is something, some freight forwarders are highly automated. They can send us their prices automatically. But the best deal, the lowest price, you do not always get if you focus only on these players. We try to include also the smaller freight forwarders, but getting their prices is typically sending emails back and forth. So currently we're expanding our platform to have an entry point for them to provide us with their quotes, so that we can offer those lower prices to our customers as well. And in this way, we try to get ready for scaling up basically all the processes that we currently are partially doing manually, and that's what we're doing. And what we hope to achieve is finding a similar growth as we did last year, hoping to get new customers, new shipments, and from that expand even more other domains and so on. We would like to implement some predictive AI kind of functionality. You can imagine if we have a lot of data on shipments, on prices, that this is really valuable, because it allows you to provide someone with an estimate for a price, even if there's no official quote yet backing that. But you can say, for somebody who is shopping on Alibaba, and he sees, oh, this supplier offers this product for this amount of money. What would the shipment be if I go to Cargo Plot, and we can give some feedback on how we expect it to be between this and this? Then it really helps our clients making those choices and seeing what the total package would cost. And these are all things that we can do if we get more and more data in. So focus number one is growing our data, growing our team, growing our number of clients. And the next step then is improving on our product, again, improving on the service that we offer.
Well, I'm normally I'm supposed to be at the Next Web conference in Amsterdam in September. If physical in-present conferences still are happening in September and October, then hopefully I'll get to see you in Amsterdam. That would be great.
That would be great, yeah.
Thank you for this discussion, Henk Jan. It was great to understand more about what you're doing at Cargo Plot, and I wish you all the best as you guys continue to scale this up.
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity. Thanks for having me here. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thank you as well for joining us for this episode of Startup Stories with Scaleway. If you are a startup that uses cloud computing resources, be sure to check out Scaleway's startup program at scaleway.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform, and check out all of the previous episodes of the podcast. Again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.